Thanks, everyone. Hey, there's the sound. Sorry about that. Hey, welcome. Thanks for coming. Um, this is, of course, Morbid Mondays for August. I don't know, what is this? The 13th? What number did I write down? Um, yeah, it's been kind of a long week. I've been working all hard and whatnot. So I am excited to not be doing that for the next couple of days. Even though we're gonna be doing some recording. New Devour is going to be recorded. New Hero Hero Go Show is going to be recorded all very, very soon. So that's exciting. Hey, there's Lee. There's Derek. Excellent. Thank you guys for coming along. Look, we're going to start the show as we do all the times with what's been happening in and around. Sorry, cats are going a little crazy tonight on the Legion Podcast Network. And so let's get started. Mental Health, episode number 8, has dropped, which is a great new show here on legionpodcasts.com. I would highly recommend, if you haven't checked it out yet, please do so if you like the metal music or you just want to hear interesting conversations about the metal music. Who Will Survive dropped a bonus episode, number 11, on the movie Cat Sick Blues, part 2 of that conversation with Matthew C. Vaughn. Also dropping since last we spoke, Quid Pro Quo, I can't even say it, Quid Pro Bo Duncan. The Silence of the Lambs commentary that we did, which is out, and I want to say thanks to everyone who listened and gave us some feedback. Everyone seemed to enjoy it, so thanks. It was fun to do. You can get delicious merch like this at legionpodcast.com, and there is a link there. It says Legion stuff to buy. You can go get your own coffee mug. Cinema Beef Podcast number 119 dropped, talking about The Devil Times 5, as well as the movie The Children. The episode entitled Isolated Brats. So, what's going on, Andrew? Nice to see you. Hello, this is the Doom Show. Man, I know I say it every time. I'm always happy when I get to say there's a new episode of Hello, this is the Doom Show. This time on the movie Macabre, which is also a fun thing to say. Cinema Beef, episode number 120. Gary hitting you 2 times. This one called Spiked Heat, involving Do the Right Thing and Summer of Sam. Man, yeah, this is kind of in honor of Black Klansman coming out, and I cannot wait to see Black Klansman. I think that movie looks great. I really want to see it. Pick 6 Movies, episode 5 of season 2 dropped low this last Friday. An episode on The Ladies' Man, which may be pound for pound our funniest episode, I think. But I don't know. You guys give it a listen and let me know. Also, speaking of Andrew being here with us, the Friday the 13th Favorite Movies bonus episode dropped on the film Moonstruck. And hashtag snap out of it, of course. Legion After Dark, episode 4, we got the video version of that up over right here on this YouTube channel. Which, by the way, if you haven't subscribed, please do. We're only 15 subscribers away now from being able to have like a handy URL that's just like youtube.com/Legion Podcasts. Until you get 100 subscribers, they give you all kinds of letters and whatnots. Very... I know it's a meritocracy and all, but it's real frustrating when you're trying to get people to come over and, watch shows and whatnot. So, Witch versus the Doomsday Clock, week 55, 10 hours, 30 minutes to Doomsday. This episode entitled Dracula Loves Divorce and Space Weed, on the film The Satanic Rites of Dracula. That is when, of course, Hammer started creeping in to... into the 80s, or not 80s, but into the 70s. That one came from 73. And that is a weird movie, for sure. Cinema Psyops dropped a little commentary of their own on the film Young Warriors. which I've never seen that movie, and I will probably watch it with them. Kill the Cast, episode number 53 on The Blob. The 88 Blob, because that's the 30th anniversary. 30th anniversary just hit recently. And that's a great movie. That remake of The Blob is pretty good. It's kind of up there with the great remakes, I think, with like, you know, it's not as good as, say, The Fly or Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but it's pretty good. That 88 Blob is all right. Also, I'd point out I dropped a written review, for those of you who enjoy, I don't know, reading stuff. Over on legionpodcast.com, there is a review of the film Demon House, the Zach Bagans, Ghost Adventures dude. What's up? Abe Sapien, nice name, sir. Lee saying the 88 Blob is better than the original. The original is overrated. It just comes from a different time. It was a goofy 50s sci-fi film, and the 88 film just took the subject matter more seriously. And I agree with you. If you want to ask me which one I want to watch, I'm watching the 88 version of the Blob for sure. But yeah, I mean the original is charming in its way. I don't dislike that film. The 88 film is probably better, cover to cover. Gary Hill saying, I love the Ladies Man episode. You guys shouldn't have to explain stuff to white folks, but I'm sure they appreciate it. Yeah, we do what we can, but we're also incredibly white. Like, I don't want to pretend like we have some, a finger on the pulse of, urban America or something like that. We're painfully white. I mean, look at what's happening here. So anyway, but that Demon House is boy, that's a real stinker, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, did you guys watch the show, the Ghost Adventure show? I made it through about half of one episode before I realized this seems real stupid and I want no part of it. I watched a lot more of Ghost Hunters, which is also not something I'm terribly proud of, but it happened, and things happen, people. I can't, again, not proud of it, but what are you going to do? Lee says, Steve McQueen as a 30-year-old teenager might be one of the first to do that horror trope. I don't know. Was Blob I was a teenage werewolf? Because Michael Landon, I think, was a little old in that. I don't know. Abraham saying that OG Blob is still awesome. I think, yeah, like I said, I think it's real charming. I think I like the original Blob quite a bit. But like I said, if push come to shove, if I were going to watch one, if you told me you got to watch one of these tonight, yeah, it's probably going to be the 88 version. Anyway, so that's what's been dropping in and around the network this week, and so check that stuff out. We appreciate it as always. More coming soon. The monthly stuff is about to start rolling out with the new episode of Devour and Hero Go Show. Like I said, both of those recording this very week. So and I'm getting the Patreon stuff together. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But let's talk about what's all been on our collective horror minds for about the past 3 days. And I would argue that thing is The Meg. The Meg was a movie that happened over the weekend. So I don't know. Have you guys seen The Meg? I don't want to get into spoiler territory, certainly. But I feel like we should discuss it because it came out, it did well. I think maybe about 40 million this weekend, which is no small potatoes for a like a Jason Statham starring action film. Derek has seen The Meg. So yeah, well, we're not gonna get too deep into it, but I'll tell you, like I've been working on a review for it, and that'll drop, at some point. I've been working on a video review, which has been problematic, but just because the production side of it, it's just been real slow. But I'll do that in a written review, or if the video review just becomes too unwieldy, then we'll just do the written one. But at any rate, I'll give you my quick thoughts on the Meg. Um, I had fun. I had a good time watching the Meg. Gary says I haven't seen Jason Statham Shark Puncher yet. If only, if only. Um, Lee says haven't seen it yet. Get the impression it's the better version of sci-fi shark films. Kinda, sorta. Except that. Okay, let me back up a second. So I think the Meg is a fun time at the movies. I had a good time seeing it. We saw it in 3D and it was fun. I had a good time. Had the popcorn, had Cokes, the whole thing. Like, it really did it up. Like, went to the movies. Like, honest to goodness, went to the movies, and that's always fun. So I don't know that you have to see it in 3D. I think the 3D works. I think it's fun, but I don't know that I would tell you to watch it over 2D. It just depends on if you like the 3D stuff. The it takes a little too long for the Meg to show up, I thought. And then once that happens, it's not. I'm tempted to say it's not violent enough, but I don't necessarily mean that. I just wish it had been schlockier. You know, I wish it had been, as Lee said, a better version of the sci-fi films where you've got these ridiculous over-the-top stuff. These giant ridiculous scenes happening all the time, and it wasn't really like that. It takes itself a little bit more seriously than I want it to in a lot of ways. The other problem I kind of have with it is there is kind of a centerpiece action scene where they reference Jaws. There's one reference to it that I thought, hey, that's kind of clever. They're doing a little tip of the hat to the greatest shark movie that ever will be, Jaws. In fact, we watched most of that the other night, and the Congo of shark movies, Lee asks, is it the Congo of shark movies? No, it's better than Congo, but it's not as good as Deep Blue Sea. Deep Blue Sea is a better shark movie than The Meg because it leans into the ridiculousness of its subject matter a bit more, and that's kind of what I wanted. I think that some of the action sequences and so forth are really good. Like, I had a good time watching the movie. I don't want to give you the impression that I didn't enjoy it. Derek saying he saw it in IMAX 2D and had fun with it. Sure, that's what it is. It's a fun movie. Abraham saying he wishes it was a bit more over the top, but he quite enjoyed it as well. Yeah, I think that's a big complaint. Is I want it to have a little more Piranha 3D in it than it did. But it's fine. It's fine. That's kind of, at the end of the day, it's fine. It was a good time when I was watching it. I will probably not think about it too much more until it comes out on home video, and I'll watch it again for a handful of scenes, and then I'll probably never see it again. It's not a classic. It's not. So I don't know. I'm curious if they do this like super gory R-rated release of it or something on Blu-ray. Then I'd be curious to see that. But yeah, it's fine. It's a good time. Like, if you see it at a matinee or something like that, you're gonna have a fine old time with the Meg. It's fun. I enjoyed it, and I just don't think it's substantial, I guess, is maybe the best way to put it. So so that's kind of the Meg, and I think that everyone I've seen who's seen it has kind of had the same impression of it, of like, yeah, it was all right. The Meg's fine. It's all right. But more to the point, this has less to do with the Meg than I kind of what I wanted the Meg to be. And it's the idea that B movies like the Meg. I mean, the Meg is a very expensive B movie, but it's a B movie. Let's not kid ourselves. We're not talking about high art here. We're talking about a shark exploitation film. And I think there are better versions of that. I think there I'm a big fan of a movie called The Reef, which I think is a really good, shark, suspense film. Derek saying it's crazy. John Turteltaub directed it, who did Three Ninjas and Cool Runnings, and Abraham saying that The Meg is the biggest opener for Warner Brothers this year. I would imagine so. I can't think what else Warner Brothers put out this year that was substantial. Like they haven't had a DC movie out this year yet, have they? I don't think so. At any rate, Aquaman's coming out at some point, and I'm sure that'll do real well for him. But yeah, Lee is saying the reef is real good. Yeah, and I mean that's kind of more my speed. I thought 47 Meters Down was a good shark movie, and I enjoyed that stuff. I'm not crazy about The Shallows. I didn't think that was very good, but yeah, I like a good shark attack film. I think The Reef does take it more seriously, but that's also a more serious movie, and it's kind of dark and gets pretty gruesome. Derek also saying The Reef is awesome. I'm glad to see some love for The Reef. The Reef is a, I think I said it after I saw it. I think The Reef is the shark movie that bothered me most since Jaws, which I know is a crazy thing to say, but also it was the one that affected me the most. Like some of the shark attack sequences in The Reef are pretty chilling, and it kind of captures that open water thing too of, hey, you're out in the water at night, you can't see anything around you, and there are sharks there, and that is horrifying to me. Oh, Abraham saying that they had Ready Player One this year. Fair enough. Which I just saw that recently, and that was another movie that I enjoyed at the time of watching it. I had a good time with it. Another one I don't think I'll watch a ton more. It was fine. It was a good action movie. Had a good time with it, but not much more than that. But to kind of put a finer point. Lee saying, love the POV shots in The Reef. The only defense from the shark is to peek down with the scuba goggles to see where the sharks are. Yeah, that's awesome. Bait, the Sharks in a Grocery Store movie, Derek pointed out, is a little too goofy. But I also have a problem with Bait because one of the characters in that movie is so much like a character from Lost After Dark that it bothers me watching it. Because it feels like one of us stole from somebody, even though that's clearly not the case. But it was one of those things of like, we're doing the same thing there. So at any rate, but yeah. To kind of put a bow on this topic of the shark movies, but I like something like The Meg needs to be more fun because it's clearly not going for seriousness like The Reef, for example, or 47 Meters Down even is a more realistic film. So I wish it had just been sillier. I wish the carnage had been a little grander in scope. And it wasn't most of the time. There were a handful of scenes where it was like, this is what this movie ought to be. And those scenes I felt like were a little too few and far between. So anyway, moving on to the next thing I'll complain about is a Shudder exclusive that I watched recently called Ruin Me. So the premise of this movie is that you're going on a one of them retreats where they simulate like a slasher movie, camping out in the woods and that kind of thing. And it's my problem with Ruin Me as a film is that there's a moment that happens early on in the movie that kind of tips the hand to what the ending is going to be. And Derek saying, ruin me, aka my first relationship. I mean, all relationships really ruin you in one way or another. It just depends on how. Sometimes it can be a good kind of ruin. Oftentimes it can be a really negative one. Anyway. So, yeah, it was one of those things where I felt like I knew where the ending was going, even if I wasn't exactly sure how we were going to get there. And I didn't like any of the characters at all. Even a little bit. In fact, the character that you'll see over my shoulder here with the blood on her face, that is, uh, yeah, maybe a little. Anyway, I was trying to get the. Can I get it right? Yes, here, this lady right here. All right, so that character introduction is her like in her kind of gothy boyfriend uh with our hero showing up a little bit later, and there's a line that this girl has when they're kind of abducted and taken away to go on this slasher weekend, and the female protagonist of the film ends up with her lap or her head in goth girl's lap, and Goth Girl says something along the lines of this has my pussy so wet, can you smell it? And it's so distasteful a line. Like, I'm there are moments in movies where a line like that would be acceptable, but this character is basically greeting another character with that line, and it just really put me off. Not just that character, it kind of put me off the movie. I was like, as a screenwriter, this line offends me, and I was never back on board with the movie really. But about Ruin Me, like, I don't necessarily recommend it. I've seen a lot worse films, of course, but it's not particularly good. You can do a lot better with your time. But the other thing I want to say and really ask you guys this question is, I'm having trouble finding Shudder exclusives that I've been real excited about. The one that I would point to that I thought was a great movie was Mon Monsters, which is was it Japanese or Korean film, one or the other, about the shitty kids who capture a monster. And it's a great, absolutely great film. If you haven't seen it and you have Shudder, I recommend it. But otherwise, I feel like the Shudder exclusives, there are a handful, but most of it's the Asian stuff, like Sadako versus Kayako, the Grudge versus Ring movie. I had a good time with that. Again, that's a movie that knew what it was. Not unlike The Meg, it just was more of what I wanted out of a movie like that. It's very silly, but Taiwan, Derek says maybe so. Mon Monsters, very very possibly, but really solid film. And at any rate, I'm struggling. Like, I love the Shudder service. I think they have a pretty great selection of films. It's just every time I dip my toes into, like, here's a Shudder exclusive. Downrange is a good example of this. Who was it? Kitamura who did that one. The guy who did Versus, Ryuhei Kitamura, I believe. I'll verify that as we're talking. But yeah, I just felt like even that movie was a movie that I expected to see in a bargain bin. Yeah, Ryuhei Kitamura, in fact, did do Downrange. Good job, Brain. But I don't know. I feel like they're not really bringing it with the exclusive stuff. And I understand that, most films of a certain caliber are going to get a theatrical distribution or something like that. But I really want to feel like somebody is curating the movies that they're calling Shudder exclusives a bit more. Because I feel like most of their library is pretty good. But I'm also looking to you guys, I guess, and saying, hey, is there one I'm missing? Is there something that, like, I've seen most of Sequence Break, and I didn't think that was all that good? I don't know. You guys tell me. I feel like thus far, the Shudder exclusives have been mostly disappointing, except for some of the foreign fare that they're bringing over. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about some other stuff that's more positive. So obviously, if you guys are watching this, then you are, watching the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Like I said, we are only a handful of subscribers away from being able to make this look a little bit more official. Should be having some video reviews coming up pretty soon. Like I said, I'm just kind of making all that stuff work a little bit, and the process of being able to do that in a timely fashion is a little bit of a bear because of rendering times, and I think it's probably just some settings, blah blah blah. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed, please do. There's going to be more stuff on the way. We're going to do another underground. We're going to do some video reviews. I've just got to get that process a little more squared. Also, folks, Lee saying he doesn't have Shudder. The list of exclusives doesn't look too strong to me, says Lee. Yeah, that's kind of my problem, but as a service, I think it's pretty great. And it's also $5 a month. I think it's worth every penny of that. So Derek says, me posting the scene from Shudder, not the streaming service, but the movie Shudder, on my post has been giving me nightmares. Man, Shudder, again, not the streaming service, the Korean film, Shudder, is one of the most terrifying. I mean, the movie itself is good. It's a good ghost story. But, wait, is it? No, it's a Thai film. Sorry, not Korean. It's Thai. From Thailand, Shudder is. Directed by Banjung Pisanthen and Park Poom Wongpoom. Anyway, it is, the last few minutes of that film are some of the most terrifying shit I've ever seen in my life. It is horrifying. Shudder is a great ghost movie besides, but the last few minutes of it are just like, holy shit, that is an incredibly scary idea, and I won't even ruin it here. You ought to see it. Yeah, Shudder is great. So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. There's more video stuff coming soon. And like I said, you'll probably see some stuff on the channel of me experimenting a little bit. So, keep an eye out and let me know. Also, here's a thing that I want to do. And if nobody recommends anything, that's fine. But over on the Devour the Podcast group page, if you go to, facebook.com/groups/Devour the Podcast, there's a post up there of me saying, hey, in September, what I'm going to do, because I'm a dummy, is I want to watch a movie every day. Or, the average of. There are probably a couple of days there where I'll watch a couple, and if I'm recording one night, I won't watch that night, that kind of thing. But I want to watch, on average, a movie a day. And I'm leaving it up to you guys to potentially offer some suggestions. I kind of don't care what it is. If it's a movie you like, if it's a movie I've never seen before, it just needs to be a movie. So I'm excited to launch into that project in addition to other projects that are going on. But I think it's going to be fun because I've never done it. I've never done the, like, hey, I'm going to log a movie a day. And then the idea is every Thursday, Friday, I'll sit down and drop a short podcast, bonus episode of me saying, hey, here's what I watched. Here's what I thought. And if it's movies I haven't seen that you guys recommend, all the better. If it's movies I just like, then that's probably how it'll go. So we'll see. Hey, let's talk about what is going to be coming to the streaming services this week. And only a few movies. Speaking of Shudder, though, there's some stuff there that I'm kind of excited about. Over on the Netflix, though, there is a new Matt Groening series called Disenchantment that I have heard good things about. So I'm curious to see that. They also picked up the movie Ultraviolet, which is, of course, the Mia Jovovich film in which there are vampires, kind of, and it's all a big action mess. You should never see Ultraviolet, but it's showing up there. On Hulu, you get the movie Marrowbone, which stars Anya Taylor-Joy from the Vivitch, which it looks pretty interesting. It's kind of a ghost haunted manor kind of movie. Looked interesting, and I'm on board with Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she's a fine actress, and even in movies that have not been great, she has been really good in them. So I will continue to follow her career and kind of watch whatever movie she's in just to see if she ever turns in a bad performance, which doesn't seem like the case so far. Also on Hulu, Stan Against Evil Season 2, which has the disadvantage of not being Ash versus Evil Dead. It's not quite that ridiculous, but I also really like Stan Against Evil, and I haven't seen all of Season 2 yet, so I got to play a little catch up, and Season 3 is dropping in October, I do believe. Over on AMC, I believe is where that is. AMC or IFC, one or the other. I don't know, always catch it on the streaming services. At any rate, Stand Against Evil, Dana Gould writes and occasionally stars in that film. And I like Dana Gould quite a bit as well. So I highly recommend, if you've never watched it, give it a try. It's very quirky and silly. It's just not quite as over-the-top crazy as Ash versus Evil Dead was. And that's why it's kind of lived in the shadow of Ash versus Evil Dead for a while. Because it's the kinder, gentler horror series that is also kind of comic in nature. Derek is saying IFC. I think that's right. Over on Shudder, we got a movie called Are We Not Cats, which sounds really intriguing. Been described as a little bit of body horror, so I'm curious about that film. A movie called Caught, which seems to be a kidnapping kind of film. A movie entitled The Chamber, which is about some guys in a submersible that are investigating this wreckage at the bottom of the ocean, getting stuck in there, all 47 meters down. Like, excuse me, I'm not yawning because I'm tired. I'm yawning because I've been talking and not breathing in. And then another documentary over on Shudder called The Road Movie, which sounds also really crazy because it is Russian dash cam. Like, Russian drivers tend to put videos facing outward on their dashboards, and it's a compilation film of the crazy shit that has happened on Russian dash cams, and that sounds really interesting. I'm not. I don't know. It's one of those things I feel like I'm going to watch it and it's going to be disturbing. Paul says, Are We Not Cats is actually pretty cool, very beautiful, and super weird. You'll probably like it. It does sound like something I would like. Also, howdy, Paul. Hey, a couple of final notes. And by the way, if you have any questions, anything you want to talk about, drop it into the chat right now as I wax a bit about the Patreon stuff that's coming. And anything you want to talk about, we'll talk about before we wrap up here. But so the Patreon stuff is gonna launch on September 1st. I'm still in the process of setting up the Patreon page and that kind of thing. So I'm, not asking anybody to throw us any bones just yet, because we also want to get the content. And we're the first. I can tell you for sure, the first Patreon content for subscribers is going to be audio commentaries of Children of the Corn, with me and Andrew and Maddie from Friday the 13th. And it will be 47 meters down in honor of the Meg, with probably Gary and someone yet to be named. So we're still putting that one together. But yeah, so we're recording those this month, and that'll drop. When we start the Patreon stuff, you'll have 2 commentaries right off the bat. I think I'm probably going to drop one on the 1st, one on the 15th, just to make it, space it out a little bit, so it's not like, hey, I listened to both of these, and now what the fuck happens for the rest of the month? I think is how we're going to do it. And then, of course, at some point in September, we will have an organized movie viewing where we can all get together and watch a movie. And so I will get that set up as well. So yeah, so keep an eye out. You'll see, postings all over the place for the Patreon once that launches, which will probably be September 1st. Like I said, I want to make sure that before we launch this thing, that there's a little value for your money right away. So, all right, well, let's see. Derek asks, have I watched Yellow Things yet? I have not. And that I've been falling down on the job. I've been watching stuff for shows. Plus, there is a very, very special episode of Devour the Podcast coming in October for Halloween, which has required a lot of time on my part. So I've pretty much been watching stuff for shows, and then the stuff that needs to be done for the October show of Devour, which is going to be probably the longest episode we've ever done. It's going to be the most ambitious thing we've ever done. It is. I will say this: it's a franchise episode, but the way that we're handling it, I think, is going to be pretty unique. And that's all I'm going to say for now. And then maybe next month we'll actually announce what it's going to be. But I'm very excited for that episode of Devour. It's taken a lot of work, and it's going to be a lot more work to come. But it's exciting. I got to read. I don't know. It's like a 12-ish, 13 books, and several movies, and some documentary stuff, all kinds of stuff. It's going to be exciting, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be cool. Very cool, I think. But no, that is all in answer to, I have not watched Yellow Things yet, but I may over the next couple of days. My schedule's a little loosey-goosey over the next couple. I'm doing some recordings in the evenings, but during the day, I plan on getting some movies in. Paul saying, hey, it's been a while since I actually made it to one of these. Good to see it. Good to see you as well. We will, you need to get on one of these Patreon commentaries. We'll talk about that later. Paul says, I saw Slender Man last night. It's not great, but not as bad as the 3.1 rating on IMDb. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Abraham, of course, was not crazy about Slender Man. I saw his review, which you can find over on the Legion Podcast group page on Facebook as well. Yeah, that's one of those that I'm probably going to wait for it to hit the home video. Abraham saying 3.1 is too generous for Slender Man. Lee saying, seems like Slender Man would be a victim of coming out far too late. Yeah, I mean, but again, if the movie is good, word of mouth would push it, I think. If people were coming out of Slender Man like, look, I know Slender Man seems like a little old hat, but shit, you got to see this movie, then I feel like there's room for that. But yeah, it doesn't sound like that's the movie that happened. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm curious. One of the, I'll see it. I'll see it because I see everything. I'll get around to it. All right, folks. I think that's probably going to do it for tonight. Thanks for jumping over to the YouTube. Paul saying that was kids horror for sure. All right. Lee says, it's like, hey kids, how about those newfangled vampires we've been hearing about? Is it? I don't know. I mean, Slender Man is relatively recent. Even I get what you're saying, Lee, but I also think that Slender Man is, you can argue the relevance of it, like if it was a flash in the pan thing, and that's why you can still make compelling vampire films. In fact, you've probably seen over here on the slideshow, the movie Afflicted, which I think is a fantastic kind of new wave vampire film, and had a really interesting take on not just vampire movies, but found footage movies. And so there's still room to do stuff. Like if the movie's good, then it's good, like that'll, quality will out in that scenario. But I don't think that Slender Man, from what I've heard, is not going to be the movie that makes Slender Man a thing. So, which is a bummer. Because I'm kind of excited for a Slender Man movie. Like, I watched the Marble Hornet stuff, and I thought some of that stuff was pretty creepy. And I always thought, like, this should be a quality film, you know? And I think you could probably get away with doing a Slender Man movie as a found footage film, and it would fit, you know? It would be an interesting approach to documenting that, I think. So at any rate, like I said, I think that's probably going to do it for us here. I appreciate you guys dropping in, spend a little bit of your Monday evening with me. I'm about to go make some dinner and start relaxing, start unwinding for the weekend, get into a little bit of The Sinner. Started watching that show on Netflix, and that seems to be pretty good. So I'm going to watch some more of that. And that's it. In the meantime, do me a favor, if you would. Hop over to legionpodcast.com. Be sure you're subscribing to the shows you like, not just the Legion podcast feed. And be sure that you're rating and reviewing all the shows, especially the Legion podcast feed. We certainly appreciate that.